Welcome, everybody. I'm Ron Deal with Family Life Blended. I'm joined by my friend and colleague, Gayla Grace. Nice to have you here, Gayla.
Good to be here, Ron.
We're going to be answering your questions today about step family living. I'm glad that you're with us. If you're not familiar with Family Life Blended, you can learn all about our podcasts and our resources, our live events, and our online classes at familylife.com/blended. So please check that out. I just want to mention that these are questions that were submitted at our recent Blended and Blessed live stream that took place in April of 2021. We responded to some of those questions live during that event, but there were so many questions we wanted to take some time and try to get to more of them. So here we are going to tackle a number of the questions. We're still not going to get to all of them, so be looking for more videos where we're trying to answer your questions. And if you have a question you want to submit, find us on social media, Facebook at Family Life Blended, and feel free to submit that and we'll compile those and have some more videos as time goes on. So Gayla, are you ready?
Yes, let's go.
Let's do this. Okay, so our first question says, how do you handle the ex-wife using any excuse to be near my husband, her former spouse? She says, we're getting constant emails asking to call for non-emergencies. It's very evident that she is still in love with her former husband. That's this woman's husband now. And it's causing tension for her, the wife and stepmom. So what are your thoughts, Gayla?
Well, I think for one thing, the husband has to be the one to address that.
Yeah.
And he needs to do some boundary setting with his ex-wife.
Yeah.
But the other thing that I think, so it sounds like this is the stepmom expressing this. I think that she can also express herself to her husband and kind of maybe talk about how it makes her feel like, I feel kind of insecure because this other woman is still so heavily invested in our lives. And I just want to ask if you would address that with her. So I think if they hear our feelings, maybe that helps them understand that how it's affecting us and ask for them to do something.
Yeah, I want to echo and springboard off what you just said. I think those are really good. What does that look like for the husband to actually talk to his former wife about this? Let me give you two scenarios. One way is to be heavy-handed about it. Don't ever call. Don't do this. Don't do that. Stop it right now. Makes my wife nervous. That just puts your wife in a vulnerable place as it relates to your former wife. I wouldn't say that. I think rather maybe the way to do it is just say, in the past, I was okay with you texting late at night, blah, 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 me responding. You kind of gotten used to me doing that. I'm thinking at this point, that's not a good idea anymore. So I would appreciate it if you would just assume I will respond to you in the morning, or don't do that. Or here's a couple of things I want to change. I think that's a kind of a collaborative approach, and you're hoping that they will honor it. Now, here's the deal. To both the stepmom and the husband, you can't make the other person do what you want them to do exactly, but you can be nice and you can be assertive in order to try to set those boundaries. And Gayla, you're right. It's going to honor the wife for the husband to do that. So I think that's definitely his job. I also think she's got some insecurities as a wife, and some of this is about you and about that insecurity in you. And so I would encourage you to listen to that. What is that telling you about yourself? And what do you need to work on there? Because your husband and his former wife changing their behavior is not going to fix all the insecurities in you. Some of that's really something you got to wrestle with. So talk to your husband about that and wrestle with it. Yeah. Have you seen that, Gayla, in people?
Well, I think it's pretty common for a stepmom to come in and have some insecurities. I mean, we don't have any instructions on how to do this role.
Right.
And there's confusion and there's ambiguity. And so it is normal to have a little bit of insecurity, but I agree. You kind of have to wrestle with it and get to the other side of, and that will help. That will help that situation.
Good. Let's move on to the next one. How do you handle when one person in the couple wants to handle conflict immediately and the other one needs to sit on it for a while? Now, this could be, I'm assuming this is marital conflict, but it could be about children. It could be about a number of different things, but it's a husband and wife issue. So, do you guys have any of that, you and
We
Randy?
do have
Yeah,
this.
yeah,
So
Nana and I do too.
yeah, I'm the one that wants to sit on it for a little while. I need to
Mhm.
process things. I'm more of an introvert. I have to kind of mull over things in my head. Randy would
Yeah.
be willing to just jump into it, and then I don't really get my say because I haven't had the time to process it. So the thing though that we've learned is the person who wants to take a time out. So let's say that I'm not ready. I have to be the one who comes back though
Mm,
within really
mhm,
24 hours or less and
mhm.
says, okay, I'm ready to talk about it. And then you start the conversation. So you can't just say, well, I'm not ready to talk about it. And then it's just left
Yeah.
for days on end. I mean, that's not going to work.
You and I are the same. I'm a contemplator too. I need to get my head around this. I don't know how I feel, let alone what to say about this. Nan is a verbal processor. She's got words galore and they come immediately. And so she wants to talk and get it out. And she has lots to say and she's expecting me to have lots to say. Yeah, this has been a real point of contention for us. So we have really had to work hard at this. And I kind of think meeting in the middle is what I hear you saying. That's also what we've had to learn to do, and that I've helped other people do. I mean, there's so many things in marriage where you're just not the same. Temperaments are different, personality is different. Your style of managing something is different, and you have to meet in the middle. It's a part of being sacrificial. It's a part of loving well. It's a part of saying, all right, now what do I have to do to move toward her in this? She needs me to activate sooner rather than later. And she has to ask herself, how do I slow down
Mhm.
and not activate so fast that overwhelms Ron? And that's what meeting in the middle sort of looks like for us.
Right. The other thing I want to add is if this is in regards to kids. So let's say, for instance, Randy wants to address something with my biological child,
Hmm.
and I am probably going to get defensive if I
Yeah.
haven't had the amount of time to really process it that I need. So, because then I can take the time to think, okay, well, this isn't really about the child. It's more about we don't agree on how to parent the child.
Hmm.
And so all of that helps for me to be given the time to process it,
Yep.
then just try to have the discussion before I'm ready.
See,
So,
and there's the win-win. Both of you are making sacrifices. Both of you are going to be agitated or frustrated with it in some way because it's not your natural style, and
right.
and you have to believe that it serves the best interest of your us to either wait or activate sooner or whatever it is you have to change. You
Hmm.
have to believe that there's good things for your us, not necessarily for you,
Hmm.
but for
Right.
your us.
Right. Exactly.
That
Yep.
kind of helps you get through. Okay, another good question. How do I, as a stepmom or bonus mom, create a loving, nurturing, and solid foundation with my stepchildren in a one on one sort of relationship? What are good routines or processes to help strengthen our relationship? And by the way, Gayla, that question was asked multiple times by our live audience. And so clearly, this is a big one. And you and I both know that it's a big question step parents have, whether they're brand new on the scene or they've been at this a few years. They're still trying to figure out that developing relationship with each stepchild, and especially the one-on-one thing. It's one thing to be in the room with six people. It's another thing to be one-on-one. So thoughts?
Well, there's not a black and white answer to this
Right.
because, for one thing, kids are different.
Mhm.
Your relationship with every stepchild is different. And you have to take all of that into consideration. Sometimes step kids aren't ready for that one on one.
Mhm.
And we need to just be careful that if that creates this awkward moment, that maybe it's not time to do the one on one. And you need
Mhm.
to do things more as a family or with your spouse there to help that stepchild feel comfortable. Because if they're not comfortable, they're not going to open up.
Yep.
That's not going to help the relationship.
Yeah. And don't force one-on-one. I mean, I'm a firm believer. You just said pace with the child. That's kind of the way we talk about it. Another way to pace is if you try the one-on-one thing, you go grab an ice cream or you spend a little time or you go ride bikes or it, and it goes well, great, do it again, in measured amounts. But if it doesn't go well, it's sort of like, all right, it's okay, back up. You don't have to go there yet. Don't
Right.
force that. You
Right.
wouldn't do that in any sort of new friendship. You wouldn't do that with any sort of new family member, or maybe you're getting to know your cousin you haven't seen in years, and You just wouldn't go over there and hang out all day long. Like, so, measure yourself.
Mhm.
And then let's just say the obvious. Warmth really goes a long way. Like, what kind of person are you? Approachable, or are you just kind of scary? Are you trustworthy? I know that sounds strange, but if you're not a person of your word, why would they really want to deepen that relationship with you? It's so important that you be dependable and reliable.
Mhm.
And then laugh and play, like humor and fun and something enjoyable are always the best first starting points. You got to
I
go
would
there.
also say consider for boys, sometimes side by side is
Uh-huh.
better.
Good.
Activities that you can do side by side as opposed to, hey, we're going to go have ice cream and sit across the table and chat.
Hmm. Hmm.
That may not work well.
Right. Right.
So, just realize, for boys especially, even with my biological son, I
Mhm.
have found that to be the case, that he opens up to me more if maybe we're in the car together and, we're going somewhere, or, I have found something that kind of, he enjoys that I can do with him, or I can at least be there with him and can open up conversation. So,
Yeah, I would recommend my book, Building Love Together in Blended Families. It's all about bonding. It's really about, that's what it really is at the heart of it. And I think the Smart Stepmom and Smart Stepdad books that kind of talk a lot around how do you move into these relationships. So that might be a good resource. Okay, let's go to the next one. We have 5 kids, 2 mine and 3 I can't do the math. 3 mine and 2 his, it says. My oldest is 13 and his oldest is 14. They're both boys. Their relationship has been good the last couple of years. We've been married 3 years, she says, but now they barely interact. How do we mend their relationship? Well, my first thought is you don't. I mean, I hate to say it, but you don't mend anything between step siblings. They have to mend this thing. Now, what you can do is help to create a climate where that's more likely. You can have certain expectations for the home, basic consideration, basic kindness, thoughtfulness for one another, some of those qualities that just make it more likely that they actually, are decent to one another, which means they're not being mean and nobody's picking on somebody else. And that's just going to make it worse. So, whatever it is, first of all, let me just say, whatever it is, may not be anything unique. It may not be that they somehow had an altercation or a conflict and now there's this rift in their relationship. It could just be that they're getting in teenage years, 13
mhm,
and 14, and not all teenagers like each other. I mean, when they go to school, they certainly pick friends. That's the natural social order. It could just be that they kind of run in different crowds and they just wouldn't hang out if they, found themselves at school together.
mhm.
Okay. It's a little hard. It's a little awkward. By the way, biological siblings do this as well. We've
Right.
we've all maybe heard the story, or maybe you experienced when you were growing up. Your older sibling, they got really tired of you hanging out with them. You were a pest, and they didn't want anything to do with you for a season of their life. There could be a number of things that are going on here that are just that. Don't panic. Make sure the climate is good. Make sure they're treating each other decently within the home. Everything that you can sort of manage there and give it some time. I think it'll probably
Yeah.
be okay.
I would also add, make sure that parenting is fair in your home. So make
Mhm,
sure,
mhm.
if one's the bio parent, one's the step parent, that the children don't feel that there is some
Mm,
inequity or unfairness in
yeah,
how things are being handled in the home.
that's a
Okay.
good observation. If there's something unfair, that sort of pits them against each other.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, good point. Okay, next one. Your stepchild has been hurt by their natural parent. This is a step parent talking. So their stepchild's been hurt by the biological parent in the other home, but they're angry at you. This person says, "Why at me? How can I cope and make things better when it seems I'm just resented for not being the natural parent?" I'm assuming this is about a biological parent in the other home. So let's say it's a stepdad who the biological dad has hurt the child in some way, and now the kid's kind of taking it out on the stepdad. First of all, I wouldn't be surprised by this. I think step parents are the easy targets, if I could say
Mhm.
it that way, for children who are frustrated with something going on in their world, in their life. You're shaking your head, so you obviously think that too.
I do.
Yeah, it's a tough place to be, and this goes back to the bonding and attachment. And step parents are the new person. It's kind of like the most fragile relationships between you and that child, and so the relationship the child really desperately wants is with their biological parents. In this case, a biological dad, and they can't have it for whatever reason. Dad's unavailable, is unreliable, something, and so that hurt comes out. Well,
Mm,
you just happen to be standing in front of me. You're the easy target. You get it. It is not fair. It
mhm.
is not fair. To his question, how do I cope and make things better? Well, what you can certainly do is not make things worse. I do think you can draw the boundary and just say, hey, hold on up. No, I don't think I'm deserving this. Please don't talk to me that way. And then you kind of have a conversation with your spouse in the home and dialogue around, could you help me out with this? I think I'm getting the brunt of all this stuff going on. And talk to the child and just ask them to be kind and decent, and reinforce those basic things. They're probably still not going to be moving towards you emotionally. They're not going to
Right.
be letting you in. It is
Exactly.
what it is for a while, and that will add strain to your relationship. I don't know there's a way around that, other than the child sort of ultimately resolving this with their parent. That's where it ultimately has got to go, but that's out of your control. And so what you can basically do is be decent and say, you can't treat me that way. Please be kind.
And then also step back and separate from the behavior and know
Mm.
that it really probably isn't you
Mhm.
that this is about. Yes, it's being targeted toward you, but you just have to sit back and realize, okay, I'm still going to do my part. I'm going to do what I can. My identity doesn't lie in this stepchild loving me,
Yeah.
and I can be okay even if this relationship is tense and not where I want it to be.
Yeah. Obviously, we're not talking about a kid who just repeatedly comes at you with
Right.
negativity. That would require some further action. I mean,
Yeah.
again, you and your spouse work together, work in concert, so that they're supporting you. That's really a very important piece to this. And
Exactly.
this is where we always have to pause and say to biological parents, this is why you need to hug your spouse every now and then and tell them thank you
Right.
for putting up with the unfair situations and things like this that happen sometimes to step parents.
Acknowledge that their
Yes.
role is
Yeah.
hard.
Give them a hug and put words on it and say you see it, because
Right.
they need you to see it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right.
That adds a little strength, I think. Okay, next
Mhm.
one. Is it correct? I think we got time for one or two more. Is it correct that the stepfather wants to be the father of his wife's children? Now, this one I think is a question that came from our Spanish speaking audience. Our last Blended and Blessed, we were live streaming in Spanish as well as in English. And I'm going to make an assumption here. I think there's a general question that all step parents ask is, well, can I be the dad? Can I be the mom? Um, and the heart behind that is really important and valuable. You want to matter. You want to play a role in the child's life. You want to bring blessing to the child. That's so admirable and noble, and we applaud that at Family Life Blended, because yes, we want you to find those places, and you can play significant roles with many of your stepchildren, if not all of them, at some point in time. It's a process to get there, so you got to be patient with it. But yes, love the heart. Um, but you can't necessarily step into the mom role or the dad role just because you want to be there. The child has to allow you to move into
Right.
that spot. You can be a parent figure on day one. You can be an asset, a helper, a friend, a coach, a mentor, all of those things. But dad, that's up to you and the child and the developing relationship that you have with them.
Right.
Yeah. So, my additional thought is sometimes, though, culturally, there's a pressure to do that. I think in English speaking in America, North America, moms feel that a lot. We actually have a term for it in the family studies field called the motherhood mandate. It's that you be the central hub to the family in the home and be emotionally in touch with everybody in the home, adults, children, whoever it is, care for people, kind of know what their needs are, give them big hugs and love on them. And as a stepmom, you just can't move into that sort of role on day one,
Right.
unless the doors are wide open for you to. So generally speaking, no, you can't be that person until the family has developed and you're able to step into there. I think in Hispanic families, there's a high degree of expectation that men are respected and that there's this important role they play in terms of the family, and also for women as well in Hispanic cultures. And so, yeah, there's some hope there. And culture says you should play that role. Here's where I think it gets challenging. I think our hopes and sometimes cultural expectations set us up with pressure to be the dad in a way that you just simply can't be yet. I would say it this way: you can't go over to your neighbor's house and walk in and say, "I'm your dad. Treat me as such, respect me as such." I mean, you can do it, but I don't think it's going to work.
Right.
That's the point. The relationship between you and the child has to support that. You can't
Right.
just demand it.
Yeah.
How would you react to it?
Yeah, it goes back to what we've already talked about, pace. Pace
Yes.
the relationship and work off of the cues of that stepchild.
Mm,
We can intuitively understand where the child is by the way they're reacting to us,
yeah.
and use those cues to help you know how to move in that relationship.
That's good. That's good. Well, our time has come to a close. I will say to our viewers, we're going to do another of these. So be looking for the next video, including one question we're going to tackle is, what if my stepchildren just simply don't want a relationship with me at all? Like, what do I do then? All right. So be looking for our next video answering our questions. Again, learn about all our resources at familylife.com/blended. familylife.com/blended. Gayla, thanks for being with me.
Good to be here.